This year, I saw 113 bands live. I saw some big, iconic legends, I saw some up-and-coming bands, and everything in between. Most of the performances were really solid, but there were also some stinkers. So in this video, I'm gonna tell you about the 7 worst concert experiences that I had this year. And one of those bands is a band that I've been into since I was a kid and never expected to put on a list like this. Sometimes the most seasoned bands have a bad day at the office, and that was definitely the case for Sodom when I saw them at Masters of Rock in July this year. Normally when I see this band, they're absolutely great, but this time something was seriously off. The energy was awkward, the sound was bad, and the performance just somehow fell flat. And actually then when Hellripper stormed off the stage right after, he just kind of threw away his bass and stormed off, leaving his bandmates alone for pictures, didn't talk to the fans or anything like that, he knew, I knew, everybody knew something was off. Sometimes it's the reality versus what was expected that fails, and that was the case with Cynic in August. It had been said that they would be playing material off their legendary album Focus, which they didn't do, and it kind of fell flat because people were there to hear that, and when that didn't come, nothing really happened. And on top of that, they also had some technical issues, so they just never took off for them. Okay, I know this one might raise some eyebrows, but I've said it before and I'll say it again. Meshuggah's musicianship is untouchable. But for me, it's just like watching a well-oiled machine doing the same thing over and over again. It just doesn't do anything. I've been really trying, and I was hopeful. I went to see them for the 3rd time this year. I really wanted to be able to enjoy this band, but I just can't connect to this emotionally. It just doesn't do anything for me. I respect the band, I respect their fans, I can see there's plenty of them, but it's just not my thing. I'll be perfectly honest, it can be hard to criticize bands like this, but I have to be honest to myself, I have to be honest to you guys, and I think, it's a high stakes game. Live shows, many things can go off, and I think sometimes the devil is in the detail, and that was definitely the case with Cradle of Filth when they played in Pilsen this year. I think I summed up that gig pretty well in my concert review that I did back then. It kind of, as I said, it lacked energy. There was no kind of blast in this. It was not in your face. Actually, I felt that the band before Wednesday 13 were louder than Cradle of Filth. It was a strange mix of the sound with 2 great guitarists and an amazing drummer, and you can sometimes barely hear them somehow, or it wasn't kind of they didn't get the space that they actually deserve somehow. The crowd engagement, as I said, was really shitty, and I think maybe Danny just had a bad day, but they didn't really do a good job with his crowd. And now the band definitely wasn't on their A game that day, but there was a huge missed opportunity because 2 members of the band are from the Czech Republic where the gig actually took place. They could have handed them a mic, had them say a few words in Czech, and then people would have gone mad. They would have eaten from the palm. So that could have glossed over some of the other shortfalls of that show. I had seen Primordial in 2023, and unfortunately they ended up on my list of the worst shows of 2023. But back then there was a massive sound issue, and I could see that was really affecting the band. So I said, I'm gonna give them a second chance. So the first band of that is Primordial. I had seen them with awful sound in Prague a few months ago, and I decided I wanted to see them again in a better sound. It was no better with a better sound, and there was 0 atmo at their gig. So yeah, no atmosphere, and to be very honest, it was just plain boring at times. It's definitely not a band that I need to see live again. I will just stick to their albums. Next up is a band that I saw first in 1995. I was very happy to see them even if I wasn't impressed, but back then I lived in Iceland, we never got any bands, I had to travel to see them. I would have been happy to see fucking Village People. Now the band is Testament, a band that I never really got into even though I'm a huge thrash metal fan, and there must be a reason, but I wanted to see them again, and let's see what I thought. I really wanted things to work out between us, but they just didn't. And that is Testament. I saw them 29 years ago, I didn't like them back then, now I came very open-minded. Great musicians, great sound, very talented, but it did nothing for me. There's just something missing in this music. There's just something that doesn't come there for me. And I realized when I was watching them, okay, this is the reason why I never went back to listen to their albums. I just don't like this band. Now, before we get into the last band, if you're enjoying this video or you like to talk about heavy metal and rock in general, then hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. I do interviews also, concert reviews, album reviews, and all sorts of stuff. And here it is, a band that I never expected to put on a list like this. AC/DC was the soundtrack to my childhood and teenage years, just like yours probably. Angus Young, Brian Johnson, Bon Scott even back in the old days, this is legendary stuff. So the stakes are very high. I saw them in 2015 in the same venue in Dresden. It was great. So of course I had huge expectations. I expected a 10 out of 10 performance when I went to see them again this summer. But the reality turned out to be different. I mean, obviously it's a huge venue, 70,000 people, so they had to put up those screens so that the people in the back could see. But they were totally out of sync. And I mean, not just by milliseconds, but like totally out of sync. And then it was most of it played in daylight, which really took a lot away from the show. I do understand that they can't control that. But then there was an elephant in the room. First 3-4 songs I kind of felt like, okay, it's on, it's working. Brian is pulling it off. But then Thunderstruck came. And then I was thunderstruck because they made a slowed down version, but he still struggled with keeping up with the pace of that song. It was painful at times. And that was kind of to be throughout a lot of the major hits that we all want to hear in those concerts. He struggled with them, but then he actually performed very well on songs like Stiff Upper Lip and Have a Drink on Me, and these are not the songs that people come to see. I mean, these are good songs, but we come to see Hell's Bells, Highway to Hell, Thunderstruck, you know, You Shook Me All Night Long. These are the songs that we come for. The rest, so yeah, I mean, obviously when a band like this comes around, you want the greatest thing, and anything short of that is going to be a disappointment. To be very honest, I thought it would be a 10 out of 10. I mean, that was my kind of minimum requirement of AC/DC. So the whole thing, the daylight, the out of sync, the voice, all that stuff, it really kind of took it down. So it just wasn't the experience that I expected. So what's the worst gig that you ever seen? Tell me in the comments. And also stick around, guys, because I'll be making a video about the 10 best gigs of 2024 as well. And then I want to tell you about this video here. I went to see In Flames recently, and I think that they are one of the best live melodic death metal bands out there. Check that out.